I think that everybody needs to find their eureka moment, and everybody needs to recognize that it's not automatic. We can't all wait for Amazon to revolutionize e-commerce or for an economic crisis to be the catalytic event. They will be. We'll have those events in the future, and then all of a sudden the whole frontier will shift. But if you want to be a breakout leader, you can't wait for the whole frontier to shift. It's not about being better than yourself, but where are you relative to the competition? Hi. I'm Peter Settel, CEO of Bold Penguin, and this is the future of insurance. Live from ITC 2025.
Peter, it's really good to sit down with you in person. I don't get to do a lot of these outside of Zoom, so it's great to meet you in person for the first time. Yeah, just Zoom so far. And here we are. I don't know how much of the background people are getting, but at least there's mountains. We're not facing the strip, so nothing exciting going on.
Yeah, and an airport and a mall. Yeah.
Airports can be exciting and loud. So hopefully that doesn't interfere with anything. But before we jump in, can you give us a quick kind of who are you? And then for those who don't know about Bold Penguin, a little on Bold Penguin.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great to meet you in person. Yeah. I Peter Settel, President, CEO of Bold Penguin. I've been doing insurance technology for over 25 years, starting with Homesite Insurance, which you may know of. And I was one of the leadership team members there, and really looking at digital technologies and looking at the impact that they might have on our particular part of insurance at the time, which was property insurance, and using that to, modify the business model, create a different value proposition, bring different customers into the funnel, and that's still a fantastic company.
Yeah.
So that was my starting point into insurance. Along the way, Homesite was acquired by American Family. Fantastic for all parties. American Family's a great company. Had an opportunity to become the Enterprise Chief Technology Officer there at a time that we were doing a lot in terms of transformation of the business, both digital transformation, but also expansion of the business through M&A very successfully. It was great to be part of that journey. I was able to expand that role into Chief Strategy Officer at American Family over a 3-year period in which we really made some significant bold moves. One of those moves was originally we have a very large venture investment arm of the business. We were a venture investor into Bold Penguin at its startup. Got a chance to know that team very well. Started to use that technology within American Family. As we were reshaping our corporate portfolio around commercial, personal lines, life insurance, multi-product customer solutions. And then we decided to buy Bold Penguin to really accelerate our own transformation as a business. And through that, obviously got very close to Bold Penguin. I was involved in the strategy around how we could use it, while keeping it independent and serving the broader insurance market. We really liked the team. We really liked the technology. We really believed in the premise of having a distribution platform that could bring options into our distribution, but still maintain our brand and our position in the market. And it worked out really, really well. So we acquired the business in 2021. I became a board member. Then for a period of time, I was chair of the board, working with the founders, looking at the overall strategy. And at the end of last year, on a planned basis, I stepped in to run the business, and that's what I'm doing now as president and CEO. So 25 years, kind of a continuous arc. From Homesite being acquired by American Family, my role expanding there, American Family taking on Bold Penguin, and now I've moved over there and really want to see Bold Penguin grow. Be an enterprise technology player for the industry, serving other insurance companies, but really being viewed as a technology leader in terms of digital technologies and solutions for the full life cycle. Really focused on commercial, really focused on small commercial. We say we're the premier network for small commercial, and we can discuss what that means. But even in that, small commercial and the perimeter of small commercial is expanding. Small commercial is not just contractors that need GL and a COI. I mean, it's a really important thing. But small commercial is companies that have multiple locations. They could have tens of millions of dollars of revenue. They could have very, very complex needs. And for the owner of that business, they don't consider it small. Right? That's their business, regardless of size. So I really love that. I love being part of that And I love finding ways to use technology, digital technologies, data, to create solutions that, bring people in and add value.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've had an opportunity to do that for a really long period of time.
I've worked in small commercial focused specialty lines players in particular for a while, and the first one I got into, our small commercial or small team, was we called it private enterprise, and this is the person who founded it was like, to call a small business owner small is almost like offensive, and it's like, and we went up to 35, 50 million, something like that. It's like, you're really successful, good for you, and to call you small seems like we're missing the point of what they are, and it's a huge swath of the economy.
So when I was with HomeSite, we worked through big partners. We do private label. We've grown that business very rapidly, and we're really good at what we do.
Yeah.
And that business still goes on. It's personal lines, and it's doing homeowners usually on the back of a partner's auto.
Yep.
It's just the value proposition is very clear. It's very much about integration and data and making that seamless. And it's really a monoline product and a monoline product.
Right.
That's what it is, right? Pricing is the big feature there. Being able to price for every risk and being able to do it on a low touch basis. That's very important. And then there's a lot of other pieces to it. But when I moved over to American Family, it's a very different distribution model. It's a very different brand. It's a very different customer base. But what you find is at the heart of American Family are the agents and the agency owners.
Yeah.
They're small business owners.
Yeah.
And so everything we do, and sort of created an imprint on me. As a new person into American Family, I think everybody kind of grew up that way that was at American Family prior to me. But it was a really important thing to meet with the agency owners and recognize they are small business owners.
Yeah.
And everything that they do is dependent on us. If our technology is good or bad, it affects them. If our product is, able to satisfy what they need or not, it's an exclusive agency model. And so you have a higher responsibility.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they are a small business owner. And so it's the lifeblood, it's their family, right?
Yeah.
It's everything. And it creates an imprint of how important, my dad was a business owner, my mom was a business owner. It just creates, I was a business owner. I started a company when I was in college and did that for about 9 years, technology company. But it creates a view of like how important it is to make sure that the business owner and then their team has the right tools, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And moving over to Bold Penguin, it just magnifies how important that is, as we're a distribution platform that serves multiple stakeholders.
Yeah.
The end customer, obviously, but the agency owner, their staff, their expense ratio, their efficiency, their ability to grow. But on one side of us as a platform, we have some of the greatest companies in the world. The top carriers, whether they're admitted market carriers, non-admitted market carriers. We just did the acquisition of Square Risk to expand in that area. Amazing capital providers behind them.
Yeah.
And on this side, we have distributors, whether those are brokers and some of the best brokers in the world, and carrier-owned brokerage. Like we work with American Family through their carrier-owned brokerage to provide options into their distribution. We work with some of the best companies in insurance that are big brands that have carrier-owned brokerage that want to be able to provide small commercial options into their brand, to their customer base. And so when you look at it, we've got this amazing group of stakeholders. And the thing is, the better we are at what we do, the more we grow and the more value we create. So it's a beautiful thing. But at the end of the day, we're serving a small business owner, and I find that like super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I can feel the purpose in that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people probably don't, in the agent channel world, I think people know you well. Outside of that, I think it's much less clear what is Bold Penguin. Talk to people like, oh, that's like, it's a lead source, or what is it? So when you talk about these partners and the relationships, what exactly is Bold Penguin doing in this kind of ecosystem, this distribution picture? Yeah,
absolutely. So when Bold Penguin was started, not that long ago, it really was a comparator into small commercial carriers and MGAs.
Yeah.
Where through a quote API, essentially, you could put a quote on the glass and give some indication of eligibility and quoted premium. And it was a lead exchange.
Yeah.
So if there was an opportunity for an agent to monetize that lead through a carrier, you'd typically bridge over to the carrier portal, fulfill that business, and if you couldn't, then you could offer to sell that lead into our network, and it's an auction model.
So that's where the lead perception, or are you having as a lead engine?
Okay. And so that was the original premise, and I think that premise makes sense if you believe that the small commercial market was going to be disrupted by basically venture-backed MGAs that were going to be grabbing market share and looking for distribution, and venture-backed distributors, new brands, that were going to be looking for carrier capacity. And so if you believe that, and you have a venture-backed platform that sits in the middle with both a direct monetization and a lead auction, it's a great model. I don't actually buy that premise. We've been doing this.
It hasn't played out.
Right, exactly. And so I think the reality is there are some new entrants that are very important companies, but for the most part, the distribution model of small commercial or commercial overall hasn't shifted as much as it has on personal lines. It's more complex. It's more multi-product. It's more multi-carrier, even for a small business. We can get into that. But what you're seeing based on megatrends, climate, regulatory, cost of capital, scale matters, brand matters, the ability to invest in technology matters, the ability to create solutions for agents matters. It's not easy to disrupt that. So what you have is more of a consolidation in the admitted markets. You have a lot of M&A at the broker level. Right? And so that is consolidating distribution into a fairly small group of emerging dominant players or existing dominant players. As distribution consolidates through these brokers, that's a really important trend. And that can have the effect of consolidating into a smaller group of top carriers. That hasn't necessarily happened yet, but it could. It's certainly having that effect. At the same time, as you get a separation on the carrier side between those that can succeed and those that are going to have more challenges, and we've seen this play out on personal lines as well, there's more consolidation at the carrier level directly through inorganic M&A. And then you have the breakaway leaders. And you see that very clearly on the personal line side, but the breakaway leaders just grab more market share based on their own performance. And so when you look at all of that, and maybe that's one of those slow all of a sudden, right? There are significant consolidating forces in the admitted market, and given those megatrends and the uncertainty in the market and the complexity of being able to win on data and talent and all of these other things, we think that's a durable long-term trend, which is the opposite of disruption and fragmentation in the original premise. On the other side, the non-admitted market, E&S, and specialty underwriters, with new capital coming in, alternative capital coming in, is a very, very important part of the story as well. For most of our career, E&S has been sort of ephemeral. A problem pops up, E&S comes in, the admitted market then figures out how to solve it, and E&S goes down. I think most people are looking at the E&S space and the specialty underwriting space as now a feature and a structural part of the market, where you have brokers creating their own solutions, which is interesting, and then you have larger carriers that have admitted and non-admitted and want a way to be able to load balance appropriately through those different balance sheets, essentially, with different return profiles and risk profiles. And I think that's a long-term trend. So when you look at those two things, and if you go back to the original premise of Bold Penguin, as a SaaS player, as a technology player, as a way of creating facility for new entrants and disruptors, you typically want to have as many of those carriers on your platform as possible, and you typically want to have as many of those distributors on your platform as possible to get network effects. But if the original premise of disruption isn't happening, there is no real network effect. So when we look at it now, and the reason I sort of jumped in and thought there was a really good opportunity is, what you want to have is a value proposition to carriers that are going to create, more draw in the platform, because they're going to be the consolidators and the dominant players. And what you want to have is a value proposition to those carriers that says, I'm not just going to spray you with leads. I'm going to work with you to understand at a capital level, where do you really want to grow? Where are you looking to balance your book? Where are you looking to, maybe throttle some growth? accelerate some growth, maybe offload some business through a book roll or whatever, a sale, and how can we as a platform be a facilitator of that? And that's where we've moved the business significantly into a carrier value proposition so that they can play more offense through our platform versus the typical, I'll show you a rate, but then I'm playing a little bit of defense at the same time. On the distribution side, we want them to have certainty.
Yeah.
When we talk about the larger partners that we have, when they have uncertainty of whether there's going to be a real offer or not, they don't market confidently.
Yeah.
When they know that there's a level of certainty, they have the ability to market a lot more confidently, really open up the aperture of marketing, and have great carriers on the panel that really want the business that's coming to them. So our investment is in predictive analytics. Our investment is data, right? From any form of submission, we have the ability, whether it's through our system directly or whether it's through emails or Excels or pictures or handwritten notes or whatever, we have the ability to ingest that, no matter where it is, and then take that data, break it apart, enrich it with all of the third-party data and our own proprietary data that we have with ground truth, not just proxy.
Yeah.
And then triangulate that to make sure that we have accuracy, and then feed that through our system and route it to maybe one carrier, route it to a limited set of carriers that really want that business.
Yeah.
And by doing that, they're going to be more satisfied with the type of business they get, which we're seeing response to. And then we're going to be able to project more certainty to our distributor so that they can market more aggressively. That model is very, very different than where Bold Penguin was at its inception.
Can I press you on that?
Yeah, for sure.
Because as you're describing it, until that last piece you said about the certainty for the distributor, all I could think is, isn't a lot of that the value that the distributor is offering to their client?
Oh, yeah.
And so then it's like, I put in the platform and then the platform does the work and gets it placed.
Ultimately, the distributor owns the rule set. We're creating options.
Yeah.
Right? We're creating options that say we have the ability to have a more select group of carriers that really want to buy into this model.
Yeah.
Or we have the ability to do whatever you want. If you want to show one carrier first, if you want to have full choice, our system is totally configurable, and ultimately the distributor or the broker owns the experience in the platform. But we think we can enhance their value proposition by creating more certainty so that pre-top of the funnel can have a better return.
Yeah.
They can advertise more, they can be more aggressive, or an agent can go out and really look to win new business because they know they're going to have something that they can offer.
Yeah.
We want to enable that. We want to unlock, to use the term, unlock the ability for people to market more confidently.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is, and then what do we want to have? We don't want to have a lead exchange.
Yeah.
We want to have yield in the digital funnel. The more that we can have yield in the digital funnel, bind.
Yeah.
We say bind is life.
Yeah.
When we have carriers that trust the model and that we've worked with them to really map to their appetite and really get that high efficacy of their premium, their rating, no issues, right? Then they're willing to allow us to go straight through and bind the business in the digital funnel, which is what we did at HomeSite, 25 years ago. That's a very different value proposition.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we look at it instead of just basic monetization with a lead exchange.
Yeah.
We look at it as a key metric and we say, okay, if we've got a distributor, we want to show significant improvement in yield in the digital funnel, net of agency expense.
Yeah.
If we can be increasing yield in the digital funnel while reducing agency expense, we think that's a win for our larger distributors.
So it's about making the agents more effective, not effectively replacing the sort of expertise that they add to the equation.
Right. The agents, you talked about the role of the agent and how that could be either enhanced or impacted by technology. And I think that's an interesting question. Do you want to get into it?
Well, yeah, I mean, so I do want to hit that, especially in this moment.
Yeah.
And like rewinding 25 to 30 years when the internet was coming around, that it was seen as a real threat to the channel. I was just looking at AM Best data of basically intermediated and direct sold, and it's like two rectangles sitting on each other. There's been no move. Actually, the agent broker channel has grown a little bit, but yep. Effectively, it's been the same split for the past decade and decades before that. Now, things look very different within that split and the yep. way business works. You talk about AI, and I'm seeing this in the financial advisory space. It's like, well, you can get a whole retirement plan from ChatGPT. I'm not saying you should follow that, but the tools are getting to a place, and certainly will at some point, where they can do a lot of the expertise, the guidance, the digestion of the complex stuff that you as a business owner don't understand but need to get the protection. Does that risk supplanting the agents or the brokers in a way that, I think the internet is a great transaction layer, but agents and brokers are not just there to transact.
Right, absolutely.
That's where I see AI is different, is it's more than just the transaction layer. There's an advisory and a guidance component to it from its capabilities. Not saying it's there yet, but to say it'll never get there or never be good enough, I think that's probably foolish. I don't know when that will or won't happen, but so yeah. Where, like, as you were describing it, I'm like, is this, I know the channel trusts you, so it surely, like, it's not this threat to them, but I think in the context of where the threats are coming from, how do you see that shaping out? What does that mean for Bold Penguin? And I mean, you've already gone through that transition from lead exchange to something more.
Right. And we still have the lead exchange. It's just not our primary outlet, and we'll always offer that as sort of.
It's
like
a fine solution, but
it's like the tertiary layer on how we look.
It was a good solution for its time, and we've moved on.
The impact of technology on anything, right?
Yeah.
Is by itself like a super important topic academically. What I would just like say is nothing's automatic.
Yeah.
Right. If you have a technology solution, if you have a predictive model, if you have anything, digital technologies, the change or the impact that they create is not automatic just by the existence of the thing. Right? Everybody who's been doing any kind of data science for the past 15, 20 years knows that you can have eureka.
Yeah.
Right? You can create a predictive model or a recommender tool or whatever. You can deploy that. And if it creates a back-end efficiency and you can identify that with certainty, sure, you can get that impact.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to get an agent, or if you're trying to get an underwriter, or if you're trying to get a consumer to use something just because you make it available, it doesn't automatically happen.
Right.
We started doing quote and bind for homeowners and renters. The first time we released it was 2001. The number of users on the e-commerce internet was pretty small back then. We got internal efficiencies off of that technology investment, real-time data, real-time binding, real-time analytics, and we were running an efficient operation right from the get-go with HomeSite when it was a startup.
Yeah.
We started working with large partners around 2003, 2004. The best application of that was book rolls.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a linear process where you want to have high efficacy, low touch, and trusted relationships on both sides. So we were able to grow the business very quickly with a fully digitized back end, but book rolls. It was not consumer facing.
Right.
And that we had the web, we started looking at our web analytics, and everybody was dropping off early, and we wanted to get them deeper in the funnel, so we re-engineered it, and we got a better result. And we really had this really great mousetrap, but nobody was using it.
Yeah.
Then in the consumer space. We started then working with partners, and the partners were able to bring volume in.
Yeah.
And so that was a really important thing to say, hey, we've got this great tool, how are we going to feed it?
Yeah.
And the ability to work with partners was a good step. But even that was like 2005, 2006, we were growing the business. What happened in 2008, changed the world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the iPhone had come out, right? Amazon was pretty mature at that point from an e-commerce standpoint. There was more volume of business happening in the digital space.
Yeah.
And so that sort of surrounding effect was a big deal. Then you had the economic crisis.
Yeah.
Right. So all of a sudden, people that might have been working with the prestige brands of insurance and not really thinking about it, because of the economic crisis, people were looking for solutions from an economic standpoint, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
And they were more willing at that time to try out a challenger brand than they might have been otherwise, and to explore a different value proposition, direct to the consumer versus agent. And if you look at the growth of auto insurance online, if you look at the growth of homeowners doesn't have that same jump up, but it's a secondary product off of that, so those lines go up.
Yeah.
And I always look back at that 2008 as that crossing the threshold year, where consumers who never would have done it tried it. Mm-hmm. And once they tried it, they didn't go back.
Yeah.
And so those brands that were the challenger brands, you don't think of them as challenger brands anymore. You know them,
right,
they're everywhere, right? And so you need those types of actions because it's not automatic.
Yeah.
And so when I think about the impact of AI, it's a digital technology. It's the most important digital technology that we've seen in, maybe ever.
Yeah.
And it will allow certain things to happen. But the ability to do certain things, it's not automatic. Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that in terms of companies' adoption of AI or companies' adoption of any other digital technology. It's always going to come down to several factors. The culture of the organization, the readiness of the organization. Some of those things will impact the pace of digital technologies in general, and we're seeing that play out. What I would say sort of like more at the ground level is the impact of better explanations and clearer options are really important at an agent level.
Yeah.
You have a lot of people that are adding to their staff in an agency where those producers may have either a lot of experience on the personal line side or life, but it doesn't apply to commercial.
Yeah.
Or no experience at all.
Yeah.
And so if you're an agency owner and you can accelerate that learning curve and get high quality solutions out to your customer base faster, that's a positive.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that there's a positive there because we do think that commercial insurance is very local.
Yeah.
We think that if you have a small business, you need the BOP, you need the comp, you need some other forms of protection. If you've been in business 3 years, you need cyber. If you need an umbrella.
Yeah.
There's some really interesting things going on in the parametric space. We work with a particular company that's on my mind right now. You might want to have that cover in the event of a loss of power, for instance. It's very complicated to work through all of that versus a monoline sale. So can AI provide some benefit to the trusted advisor? Yeah, I think so, but it's not automatic.
Yeah.
I think the role of an agent is, I'd say commercial is local. Digital plus local is a term that matters a lot to me. It means a lot to the work that we've done over the past decade in my prior role. The local piece for commercial insurance is really important. You have to have the local knowledge. So the role of an agent, and to make themselves relevant no matter what level of digital technology is playing out, is you have to be the trusted advisor. We know that, and sometimes that can be a little bit cliche, but the piece of it is you have to be very central to the local network. You have to be viewed as somebody who can provide options, not just for insurance, but other things in the lives of your customers in order to have that relevancy and in order to do. None of that's new.
Yeah.
If you want to be successful as an agent, you have to be viewed as a trusted advisor, but you also have to be very central to the flow of activity in your local community. That's not created because of digital technology, but it's also not taken away because of digital technology. That's the foundation.
I think it's not new, but it's harder today because there's a lot more. You as the agent have to figure out all of the options and how to navigate them, and there's a lot of complicating factors. Coverage is moving very frequently as carriers respond faster to changes in experience. Coverage is moving, rate is moving. I think there's too many moving parts for an agent to actually be expected to keep on top of, and then you magnify that at a broker or wholesaler where the access to the number of moving parts is exponentially greater.
Yeah, and I don't think as an agency owner it's an easy job.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not like, it's complicated.
Yeah.
You've got really a lot of constraints and a lot of complexities. But if you're not a trusted advisor and if you're not central to the flow within your local area, you don't have that foundation level of relevance. I can't, nobody can solve that. That's a business owner thing. The new bits, in my opinion, that are going to make that agent super relevant and successful even in an age of massive use of technology by all consumers for all things, which we're in, is not just the trusted advisor and the centrality. It's you have to be thinking about the digital world from the carriers that you want to work with.
Yeah.
And so can you be the data that they need? Mm-hmm. Right? Can you put yourself in a position where that last mile bit of data, or that very localized, very temporal data that's going to meaningfully benefit their pricing model or their portfolio management, can be coming from you? And can you start to engage in that type of dialogue with your underwriters in a way that's different than in the past? They have to go through their own digital transformation. They have to go through their own digital literacy and data comfort. They might have to start adding analysts to their team that they haven't had for that purpose in the past.
Yeah.
So be the data.
Yeah.
If you can be the data versus somebody that's just doing back office analytics on a national level, right, which people are great at that.
Yeah.
You might be able to be part of something that's a small differentiator, and in this industry, small differentiators create floods of opportunity.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say is recognize that all of the carriers right now are doing capital optimization. Mm-hmm. They're always looking at where they want to grow, where they want to slow down, and where they want to shed. And so instead of just looking at it as it's a hard market or it's a soft market, find the nooks and crannies and help the carrier partners by having a mindset around portfolio underwriting, so that as you engage with them, you can be part of their portfolio analytics to say, where are you green? Where do you really want to grow? Well, if I know that my carrier partners, plural in an independent agency world, have different appetites, because they all have different levels of concentration, different pricing models, different whatever at a very local level, then you might be able to find some shoots of green and some shoots of red and some shoots of yellow, and start to optimize not only your own marketing, but also how you engage those carrier partners to make yourself more valuable and find yourself with a real growth opportunity. So I think those are two parts. The foundational thing of being the trusted advisor and being central, that's really, really hard. That's not new.
Right.
That's really, really hard. It's part of owning a business. But these new features of how do you do a digital transformation even as an agency owner, even if you don't want to have a website, and even if you don't want to do it all, I'm not talking about that kind of digital. I'm talking about digital at the fabric level of how do you operate as a digital business.
Right.
And it's not just slapping a website on it.
Right, yeah. So I think, in short, there's a potential for threat if you sit out and sit back, but actually it's a moment of enablement and opportunity if you're willing to play in it. And to give, looking forward, just in the spirit of the name of the show, where do you see things heading over the next several years, whether that's for the channel or for the industry? Do you think we're at a moment of great disruption, or actually is it where do you see things going the next few years?
I think the two biggest things are going to be flying cars, and then chips that are embedded in our brain, and we just have to think about risk. And we'll get the automatic right insurance product. So until that happens, we'll all still be able to do the thing.
Well, I think Elon Musk has been promising both of those things since 2018, so we should already have them.
Yeah. I think that I think that I try not to say AI by itself, because as I said, and nothing is automatic.
Right.
I think AI is a really important digital technology. I think if I keep it in the realm of digital technology, because then I look at the entirety of digital technology, and not only how they're impacting. Big data is a really big deal. I mean, if you're an organization and you haven't necessarily gotten yourself to level 4 maturity in digital maturity, if you haven't cleaned up your systems, I can't help solve that, right? If you haven't gotten to really clean data and an organization that is using data for advantage. I mean, that book came out 20 years ago. You can't help that, right? If you haven't been doing data modeling already, and hired data scientists and been doing things with machine learning that advance your pricing algorithms or your underwriting or your marketing or your claims, you're not at digital maturity, right? And so I think as an organization, it's not a silver bullet to say, okay, now we're using ChatGPT or now we really want to use AI. You'll do the point solution and you'll impress some people with that thing. But it won't have a business model shift. And the digital transformation is meant to be a business model enabler, not just a back-end efficiency. It's about growth. It's about bringing new customers into your brand or repositioning your brand around some different value proposition. And so the more you want to use it for growth versus just, eureka, we found some savings.
Yeah.
You can find savings in any organization right now. I mean, there's savings available, right? There have been. But if you really want to use it as digital transformation to be a digital company, to be digital, but to be digital, you have to be thinking about the business model impact, you thinking about the culture and the talent of the organization, and you have to be thinking about your readiness to adopt and change on a more ongoing basis.
Yeah.
And those are the types of things that organizations that are leading have been focusing on since the earliest days of e-commerce, and the ability to get real-time data and do analytics and reach customers through digital channels. That's a 20-year journey.
Yeah.
Where you are on that 20-year journey is going to have a big impact on where you're going to be in the next 10 years as a company.
Yeah, fair point.
And I think that's a hugely important issue. If you want to focus on back-end efficiencies, you don't have to change business model, you don't have to really change culture, and you don't have to worry about your readiness for adoption because those don't really require change. The more you want to use any form of digital technology as a catalyst for growth, the more dependent you are on your willingness to explore alternative business models and value propositions, the culture of the organization, not as a barrier to change, but as an embracer of change, and then your just general organizational ability to move.
Yeah.
And I don't think that gets enough, well, I think it does get a lot of attention. I just think that hasn't changed.
Not enough action, though.
Look, I think a lot of companies are doing a lot of great things. I think that everybody needs to find their eureka moment, and everybody needs to recognize that it's not automatic.
Yeah.
And that, we can't all wait for the iPhone to come out, or for Amazon to, revolutionize e-commerce, or for an economic crisis to be the catalytic event. They will be. We'll have those events in the future, and then all of a sudden the whole frontier will shift. But if you want to be a breakout leader, you can't wait for the whole frontier to shift.
Right.
Right? It's not about being better than yourself. When if you look back well, 3 years ago we were less efficient, we're more efficient today. But where are you relative to the competition? And that's the type of thing that leaders in an organization or an industry think about, right? They don't think about just comparing themselves to themselves. They think about competitive distance. We want to be a company at Bold Penguin that can, A, help people accelerate some of that journey. And this goes far beyond that original premise. We're an enterprise company.
Yeah.
We're looking at where our partners are, not just the agents, but the carriers and our distribution partners. Where are they in their digital transformation? If they're at a level 0, they won't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But the reality is the world's running.
Yeah.
So we want to help them hit the ground running, and we're going to do more. If they already have their enterprise architecture, if they already have their change program, if they already have some of that foundation in place, then we've got components that they can use for some period of time that are going to help them get a capability that they ultimately might replace us with that. But we're going to give them that jump. And if we've got a company that's at sort of that level 4, maturity, there aren't a lot of them, then two things are going to happen. They're going to use our solution, but maybe bring your own model, and we're going to co-develop off of our SDK, or they might not use us because they have their own solution. Right. But the more that we think about enterprise, which is really what we're all about, when you think about those consolidating effects and some of the new capital coming in, you got to be at enterprise level, in my opinion. We want to have our solutions and our ability to consult and design and work together that fit the needs of an organization wherever they are in their transformation. And what we don't want to do is have an organization that's maybe just really starting out and just give them a point solution out here.
Right.
Because it's not the way to win.
Yeah. We've gone long.
Yeah.
Which is good.
As I always do.
No, but it's so most of the conversations at ITC are like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was hoping this was more like substantive, so I appreciate all of it. And there is a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about with it. So hopefully this was a bit of a push for people.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking some time with me.
My pleasure. It's great to meet you.
You too, in person,
Yeah.
People exist beyond just what we see from here to here.
And if I talk too much, just insert your own, no, I feel like I was riffing off a little bit on some of that, but it's a topic it's not, it's something I've been working on for 25 years, and I really do love to see, the impact on the industry.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We need more energy and excitement in the industry. So thank you for the time today.
You got it.